Thank you for inviting me. It's been a real joy to work here at Shiloh for the last 3 years, and we're already preparing for season 4. I want to take just a moment and thank some people. Hanania Hisme, who's opened the door for me to be here, and it's formed a great partnership. The community here at Shiloh, so many of you, Lilian, Moria, Sophia, the list goes on of all you guys, Reut and Israel, and Israel, my friends from Ofra, my old friend Yaakov Erlich here on the front row, Aaron and Eti, and I think I saw Amos also, and so many friends that I have made and others that from years in the past are here tonight. So I'm thankful that you are here with us. So do we have our technology up and we're good to go? Okay, so we'll go to the next slide, and I want to give you an overview of what we've been doing in our work here at Shiloh and what we're planning to do ahead. Go. Okay, well, of course, you recognize this sign. This is how you get to ancient Shiloh. So this is our grid. When you begin an archaeological excavation, you first of all have to establish an alphanumeric grid, and this is where a surveyor like Yaakov is helpful. We get benchmarks, and this enables us to know exactly where we're excavating on the site. Since Shiloh was excavated by the Danish in the 1920s, by the Israeli team led by Finkelstein in the 1980s, and then the work that Kamat has done here over the last decade or so, there's a lot of pieces of data that have to all be brought together on the same grid. And so this is how we operate. And our field is called H1, and we should have sound on this video right now. This is our own news network, Shiloh Network News.
Network News with Dr. Scott Stripling.
This is Scott Stripling reporting from Shiloh. We have our team setting up our excavation squares behind me, ready for 5 weeks of work here at ancient Shiloh. We've just also wrapped up our tour. Some of our touring group has now gone home, others have stayed with us for the excavation at Shiloh. Today, our first day of the dig, we're really cleaning and reorganizing our squares and beginning the excavation process. But tomorrow we'll be deep into these Bronze Age storage rooms, dealing with material from the Amorite culture, the Israelite culture, Second Temple period, and even on into Islamic times. So we're excited to have you following along with us on Shiloh Network News. How many of you were watching us this summer on Shiloh Network News? Okay, people all over Israel were telling me that they were watching this. They're all on our website, digshiloh.org, so you can go back and watch the videos. I've failed to introduce a couple of members of my staff who are here. And listen, the great work that we're doing wouldn't happen without the partnership with this community, with the Antiquities Authority, and then with the great team that I have. And so 2 of my staff members, Israeli staff members, are here. Peretz Ruven is my ceramic typologist, and Leah Tramer is my restorationist with all of our pottery. So let's give a hand to these guys. Thank you. I've been blessed with a dream team that we're working with, so a lot of talented people working together. Well, if you're here at 5:30 in the morning, if you're already awake, this is what it looks like at Shiloh. If you've never been up that early, then maybe you've never seen this. And I realize some of you are looking at me, you don't know who I am because you've never seen me with real clothes on before and not covered with dirt, but this really is Scott. And you can see our team in action here. Some of these people you've already come to know. And I don't know if the pointer will reach over there. But on the far left is Gary Byers, and Gary is the assistant director of our excavation, also our senior archaeologist. On the far right is Abigail Levitt, who is actually a student of mine in our archaeology program. I'm working on a master's right now. She's my objects registrar, and I started training her when she was 18 years old. She's 33 now. She can do everything. I mean, the sky's the limit for, we may all be working for her one day. And then the rest of these guys are doing great work for us. And I'm trying to advance here. There we go. So some of you may know that just a few days ago we had a publication come out in Israel in one of your peer-reviewed journals called Judea-Samaria Research Studies. And I partnered with Ariel University, my colleague David Ben Shlomo. David, are you here by any chance? David Ben Shlomo and I partnered on this article on the ceramic pomegranate that you've heard about. Just today, a new
article was released on the top finds in Israel over the last 2 years, and it had 6 finds that they had on the list. And I don't know who comes up with these lists, but anyway, we were number 2 on the list. You, Shiloh, were number 2 on the list with this ceramic pomegranate. So when 150,000 visitors a year are coming, they're coming because this is an important place. The pomegranate is a motif of the tabernacle. It's also a motif later in the temple. And so when we begin to find things like pomegranates and some other things I'm going to show you tonight, we begin to see a material culture that matches what we would expect it to be. And if you want a copy of this article, just go to my academia.edu page and you can download it, or you can just message me and I'll send it to you. And here's a look at the pomegranate. You can see that it has a hook where it would hang, and the flower on the bottom is called the calyx, and so it's almost completely intact. When we excavated this, we knew, of course, immediately that it was going to be very important. And I had a little voice that was telling me, go check the Danish excavation reports. Maybe they found something and they didn't recognize what it was. Sure enough, my intuition was right. I went back to the Danish report and found that they had excavated a pomegranate, but they thought it was, the bottom part was broken. They called it a stopper, like to stop up a jug. So I arranged with the museum in their country, and a member of my team went over there and was able to measure and photograph and do new testing on it so we could publish both of those together. So we've actually had 2 pomegranates that have come from Shiloh. And our advancers, there we go. This is a look at the Danish pomegranate. We studied it in great detail to be sure, and we were confident that indeed it was a second pomegranate. These have been found at other sites in Israel like Yokneam, but these are always Levitical sites or priestly sites. And so again, it's an indication of worship or of a cultic activity that's going on. Point at you, okay. And let's see, here's another video. Let's get some volume.
It was seen as one of the top finds in Israel for 2018. In just a few days, there's a major publication that's about to come out on that. You know, that's the type of thing that we find here. We're not expecting to find the tabernacle. It was made of animal skins that would have decomposed. But the material culture, the storage rooms right there, the storage jars from the period of the tabernacle, things like pomegranates, the bone deposit that we've uncovered, all of this inductively builds a case that the Bible is a reliable historical document.
Absolutely.
And we'd like to know those that are interested in participating with us that that's our view, is that the Bible is a reliable historical document. It should be taken just like we take texts from Egypt and Mesopotamia seriously, because we don't have anything from Mesopotamia that mentions Shiloh or Egypt that mentions Shiloh. It's the Bible. And if the Bible is reliable, then we're standing where Hannah stood, where Joshua stood, and Samuel and Eli, and that's pretty awesome.
Okay, so another look at Shiloh Network News. Incidentally, I love Shiloh so much that I named my new dog Shiloh, okay? And I love that dog, okay? And so every day when I see Shiloh when I get home, he's always happy to see me. We uncovered last year a section of the glacis, the earthen embankment that surrounded the site in antiquity and protected the foundations of the ancient wall. And you can see that beautiful section. I actually fell in love with this glacis, and I gave her a name. Her name is Gladys. I call her Gladys the Gorgeous Glacis. And she's so beautiful. I think about her all the time. And that red material, that is decomposed mud brick, what we would call detritus. All of our squares on the outside and inside and on top of the wall are filled with a thick layer of this decomposed red mud brick. So there was at one time a mud brick superstructure that was on top of the ancient fortification wall, and you can see the difference there. We've prepared the way this season so that next season you're going to see a lot more of the glacis also. To my knowledge, there is no other site in Israel where you're going to be able to see what you'll see at Shiloh. When tourists come here, they're going to, from the path right in front of them is going to be a huge, beautiful section of glacis, I'm sure with a very nice new sign that will explain what it is and will tell the story. Think about it, 150,000 visitors right now, and there's not that much to see yet. It's just because it's an amazing site. Imagine once we have all this opened up so that there's things for people to see and to learn about the infrastructure in antiquity. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Up, okay. Finally got it to move. There, you can see what our wall looks like. Now, this wall is 5.3 meters wide as it goes around the site, and it has a sawtooth pattern. It jogs in and out. And we apparently have storage rooms, as far as we know, the entire perimeter. No other site in Israel has that, by the way, where storage rooms surround the entire perimeter. You can see in green the section of glacis that we've already uncovered, and then in red, where I'm projecting over the next 2 seasons, we'll open up that entire strip of glacis, and there will be a lot more to see. And I'm giving you the really short version because, of course, we have a time limit. We had a lot of interest, of course, of media. And, in fact, I think I saw Eve and a couple of other members of media that are here right now. But there's just a lot of interest in this great site. But this was a BBC documentary that was filmed. They chose 2 sites in Israel, Kiryat Yarim and Shiloh. And this is a documentary that will not only air in Europe, but also here in Israel in 2020. Okay, so you have seen this before. This was an example of secondary usage, and what turned out to be a horn of an altar here at Shiloh that was in secondary usage. Now, I'm showing that to you because we found some altar horns this year as well in our excavations. And we'll take a look at them. Sorry. This is in secondary usage. So this is in a wall. You can still see it on the site. We've left it there for now. This one I'm pretty certain, but not positive. We're studying this. This one I'm positive. This was right by the other one, but not in secondary usage. And I've shown this to Saigetin and some of the other top experts on horned altars here in Israel, and they agree with me that this is definitely a horn. And, of course, the 4-horned altar was typical of the biblical period. And then here's a possible third one that was burned. We have a sealed locus with a destruction layer underneath it, and this was in that context. And so we'll have to study this to be sure that it is. But I'm positive on the one, and the other 2 are good possibilities as well. And we'll have to study this in the coming months to analyze all of our finds. You might recognize Lane Rittmeyer on the right. Lane is many would say, the world's leading expert on the Temple Mount, and he is the architect for our dig and a lifelong friend of mine. And so the drawings that we do are done to the highest standards, and I think that's what Shiloh deserves. And he's talking with Mark Hassler, who's one of our square supervisors. We always try to get square supervisors. We need some volume to think outside their square.
We're excavating at the northern side of Tel Shiloh. Just to my left is the outer facade of the Bronze Age perimeter wall. The wall extends through the square, and right where I'm standing we have an inset or a jog or a denticulation in the wall. So the wall takes a 90-degree turn, comes in, and as the wall continues this direction, we have a series of missing stones. And I just excavated this yesterday, and right on top of these 3 flat stones we found some Roman period pottery, which tells us that at least right here this material was filled in at a later time. So as we've considered this, as we've come down, we've had to think, could this be an opening, a post-turn gate in the wall, a secondary gate or a gate in the back? And coming down, one day it seems like it is, the next day it seems like it's not. So I've had this on again, off again relationship with this wall, and at this point we still need more evidence to confirm that it is an opening, but it depends on the day. So I guess you could say I have a rocky relationship with this wall. The wall continues outside the square, and I'm standing on bedrock, so we've got this possible threshold here, about 2 courses up, and the wall, as I said, continues to wrap around the tell.
So this is what we do. We form hypotheses, we test those hypotheses to see if they turn out. And our theories are changing all the time, of course, as we're encountering more evidence. Just next to that, we have a section of, apparently this is either ancient dump, it's a pottery dump, or this is a Danish dump. And it looks like maybe in the middle there's a separation there. So perhaps this was the early part of the Danish dig, then they skipped a couple of seasons, there was debris that washed in. So we're not quite sure what to do with that, but it's clearly a dump. And then next to that, on the inside of the wall, well, there's a look at this possible threshold. You can see the symmetry to it. And on the inside of the wall, this is what it looks like. Now, the Danish, I think, thought that they were at the bottom because they had all of these storage jars that they found, but they're still 2 meters beneath where they were. And this is what the 2 meters looks like. And see the burn layer down at the bottom? That's a Middle Bronze Age burn layer. So we don't know when or who destroyed the site thousands of years ago, but long before the Israelites got here, there was a fire, maybe it was a battle or a conquest of some kind, but you can see what the stratification looks like very nicely there, and that's actually bedrock down at the bottom on the left. And this is, again, a look at this area. The red shows you that if this theory proves to be true, where there might be a secondary opening. I think we all believe that the main gate of Shiloh was probably on the south side of the site, but there may have been a smaller secondary opening as well, especially since the spring of Shiloh is on the north side of the site. And we do happen to have a very large socket stone right there by it, and just today I found nearby a smaller socket stone, which might be the upper one. So the lower one is larger, the upper one would be higher, and the post turns on that. So in this area, we have a lot of indicators that there could have been an opening. And even from across the highway at Givat Harel, and of course you folks see this all the time, but sometimes you see things so often maybe you don't recognize them. I'm seeing what could be an access from the north there, an access road. And for those of you who really like the idea of the northern, the Mishkan being on the northern platform, you should really like this because that leads right to the northern platform. And so hopefully we'll get a chance to explore that. After last season, we had what looked like a monumental building, and it was from the period of the Mishkan. So we've never had really walls from that time period, certainly not monumental walls, and these happen to be going east-west. And so we just sort of sketched out what we thought that building might look like as we continued to excavate. And then after this season, we know a lot more. We've exposed more of this wall. Now, the first part of the wall was actually exposed in the 80s by Finkelstein. We, on the other side, have a large section of this wall. It's about 1.2 meters wide. And now we've got perpendicular walls, and this is what we're seeing that the building looks like, orienting to the east-west. So it's a monumental structure from the period of the Mishkan. So it's going to be very interesting to find out just exactly what it was. Was it an administrative building of some kind? Hopefully time will tell. The pomegranate, the horns that I've been talking about, all are coming out right from around where that monumental building is. And this shows you kind of how we keep track of our loci. When you have a change of soil color, texture, there's many reasons why we might create a new locus. And it would be nice if they were all smooth and straight, but they're not. And so this just kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing. And then, of course, in our drawings, we need to know the elevation of every stone so that we can recreate these. We fly a drone every day, and so we take these hundreds of photos, crunch them into our 3D software with photogrammetry so we can then create 3D models of everything that we're excavating as well. And then this is what you would see in a typical cross-section drawing. So when we're keeping track of the loci, then we can attach those loci and understand the stratification of the site as we're excavating. In our wet sifting, we had a number of important finds over the last 3 years. 7 scarabs in our first 3 seasons of excavation here at Shiloh. 4 of those 7 have come from wet sifting. That means they would have been thrown away if we were not wet sifting. Now, to my knowledge, Shiloh is the only site outside of Jerusalem that is wet sifting everything. So we have a large team. We're able to devote time and effort and expense cost to doing this, but this is what you miss if you're not wet sifting. It is impossible for a volunteer in a square, when that little piece of clay is covered with dirt, even in dry sifting, it's virtually impossible to know. But when you wash it, then you see what you get. Now, it's just a piece of it, but if you look carefully on the left, do you see the fingerprint? You see that fingerprint? That is the fingerprint of an early Israelite here at Shiloh on that piece of clay, on that bula. So it's really amazing. And we have another possible bula. This one is less certain, and it's obviously badly damaged. We'll have to study it carefully. And here is a handle from this season that has been impressed with a scarab. So if you look carefully at the top, you can see the iconography of where a scarab impressed the clay when it was wet. And here is our scarab from this season. And this is interesting. This is 13th dynasty. So this is the oldest scarab found yet at Shiloh. So this is from the very foundational phase, say 1700 to 1750 BC. Very, very early period. And of course, we find lots of coins. This season, 154 coins in our excavation. Most of these are from the late Second Temple period, 1st century BC, 1st century AD. This one is of Agrippa I, 1st century AD. We keep track of all of our samples, as you can see, the flint and the soil samples and the bones and so forth. And so let me just say a few words about our bones. In the bone deposit that Finkelstein excavated, as well as the massive amount, we excavated about 7,000 bones this season. And so we study all of those so we know which animals they are and the age of the animal. And something very interesting that we've picked up on is the right side versus the left side. So in Finkelstein's report, he notes that there is a discrepancy. There are too many bones from the right side of the animal. Now, he doesn't offer an explanation of that, but I think I have one because I read the Bible. And Leviticus chapter 7 says that the right side of the animal is the priest's portion. So at a site like Shiloh, this should not surprise us that we have a disproportionate representation of bones from the right side of the animal. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that in the coming seasons. And here's our final, actually, we'll skip this video and go to the end because I think I am out of time. Thank you so much for your attention. It was a joy to be with you.